All right. Welcome to Powerpreneur Show. And today we have an honorary guest who has been through the ups and downs and the highs and lows and the lots of money and none of it in one lifetime, and has true motivational transformational stories to share. My partner McCoy will be joining us shortly, hopefully. And this show is to give strength to community to be able to reinvent themselves, and how people out there are doing it, and they have done it over and over. So with that being said, we have Dr. Kalpana Sundar, who is a surgeon, an MD, a mom, and an amazing human being, and a transformational motivational speaker. So she transforms lives when she talks on stages, and she gets invited all over the world. So if you're looking for someone who can do that on your show somewhere on your live event, she is the right person for you. So with that being said, Dr. Sundar, I would love for you to say a few words about yourself, and then we'll get started on what is this whole journey is about and how you are doing what you're doing.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for having me. First of all, it's a real honor to be on this show. And my story really started when I was young. I mean, I got pigeonholed into a career that I felt was a good fit, and partially by my parents, my culture. I think we all know that story. I'm from India, and you get three basic choices when you're from India of what you're going to do with your life. And number one is a doctor, and then is lawyer and an engineer. So I picked doctor because I didn't want to be a lawyer and I didn't want to be an engineer. That being said, that started my journey into medicine, and not that I regret it. It has been an amazing journey. I've learned so much. I've met so many great people and learned a lot of valuable life lessons. So I decided to become an ear, nose, and throat surgeon because I really like the intricate anatomy of the head and neck. And I also like the fact that it was a field where I could be in the office and be in surgery. Some surgical fields, you're just in the operating room, 5 days a week. And I didn't feel like I would get to know patients as well. So I liked the fact that it was like, I spent 1-2 days in the OR, and then I spent the other 3 days in the office. And I also loved that I could do in-office procedures too. So a lot of times I would be doing procedures in the office, so I didn't have to be in the OR. So that just felt like a really, really nice fit for me. And I did it for almost 20 years and, stayed in my practice that I built from scratch in a town in Florida, raised my children and all that. And then finally, after all that was done, I realized that I had evolved and changed so much that the career that I was doing no longer really fit who I was anymore. So that was when I knew it was time to make a change.
Wow. Yeah, honestly, like what you've done with the hybrid model that you thought would fit your lifestyle and how you want to raise your family and also make decent money, right?
Of course.
Has served you. But then the expansion of human soul on earth and living your purpose probably felt like it wasn't getting met, or what happened there? Like what was that? What was that urge to quit and do something different?
You hit it right on the head. I was really doing well, and I was really successful. I was making good money. I felt very regarded in my field. I mean, I had everything going for me, but there was this soul's calling of I need to do something different. I loved medicine, but the thing with medicine is you can impact one life at a time. And in those few minutes that you're with that patient. And then as medicine evolved, and, I know that you and I share this, that, the insurance companies started taking control. I could no longer spend the time with the patients that I wanted to, because I enjoy talking to them about their life and how to make it better, how to live healthier and all those things. But that wasn't possible in the new insurance model because I had to really see patients so quickly and it wasn't going to work out. So right there, I started to feel a little dissatisfied with my field because I wanted to get into those things with patients and help them in a more meaningful way. And then during my practice, I really enjoyed doing live television. I enjoyed speaking, and I did all those things. And I got so much positive feedback every time I did that. And I loved the way that when I did things like that, I was impacting a greater number of people in a short period of time. So that was the draw, and I was enjoying it very much. So that's kind of how that started. And it was my little taste into what I was going to do later on.
Love it. Love it. Well, I kind of wanted to get a little more philosophical here on this note. So your name is Kalpana. If people don't know what that means in Sanskrit, means imagination. And her last name, which is Sundar, that means beautiful. So beautiful imagination, right? Like that was happening in your brain, like as an expansion. So I really commend you for going towards your true life purpose and wanting more. And it's not easy. It's one of the most difficult thing to do is to leave a secured position in order to go for the unknown, where you know there is going to be not just pebbles, but like rocks thrown at you. There's going to be thorns in the way, and you are going to trip over. Like, you know, it's a scary journey. It's like a hike that you know is steep and is scary. You still take it because you know when you go to the top, it's a whole different feeling. And it's just crazy how human beings can actually take those leap of faith. So I really commend you for going on that route. And let's get into the next phase of what is it that was your calling, and then what you did, and what kind of hardships you went through, and then how you came out of it.
Okay. So basically, one of the things that had happened is that I knew that I wanted to speak. And that's been a calling of mine for a long time. Interestingly enough, and I wrote about this in my book, when I was 9 or 10 years old, I actually went to a TV station that was part of our field trip. And, you know, it was in New York and all of us were going. And I remember hearing the kids talk about the field trip, and they were not happy because they wanted to go to Central Park or they wanted to do something much more fun. And meanwhile, I didn't say anything for fear of sticking out like a sore thumb. And I just kept myself quiet, but I was a little excited about this opportunity. So, you know, we all go, we are in line, and everybody has to go and they have to read something in front of the camera. And this was taped and we were supposed to watch it after. Well, everybody was not happy about this. They didn't want to be filmed. They didn't want to watch themselves. And me, the outlier, I was like, I do it and I'm thrilled.
And then you love watching it, right?
And I love watching it. I was like, this is great. So I was so close to running home that day and to telling my parents that I want to do something on television. That's what I really want to do. That's what I feel passionate about. And I got home, and then I think I'm going to actually say these words. And meanwhile, I've already told my parents I'm going to be a surgeon, you know, and I've watched their faces light up and they're super excited. Right. And so then I was like, how am I going to tell them I went from surgeon to doing something on TV? This is not going to go over well. So I stifled it. And honestly, I did not even remember this from my childhood for about 20 or 30 years later. It was when I was actually in the process of writing my book that vision came back to me. And then I remembered it. And I thought, wow, isn't it funny how I knew my soul's calling, that I was so excited about that at a mere age of 9 or 10. And then I just stuffed it because that's what society encourages us to do with our souls, you know, calling. And then we are instructed to be safe and not take a risk. And not that I could say that any of that turned out badly, but I'm just saying that I think maybe there's a different way to go about it. Maybe know your soul's calling, and maybe if it feels too risky at that time, you do something that's in alignment, and then never really forget your soul's calling. Try to figure out how you can get back there at a later point. Because the bottom line is we have to make money, we have to make a living, so we cannot live in a fantasy world, you know. But I think I All I would have done differently is I probably still would have gone to medicine because I was good at math and science. It seemed logical, but I just wouldn't have suppressed that soul's calling for so long. I would have kept it in the back burner, figuring out constantly how to get back in that light that was shining that I wanted to reach.
I totally get it. I totally get it. And when we're younger, we're more connected to the source. We're more spiritual, and we go off of energy. We go off of, there's a lot of wisdom, right? When we're younger. Actually, that's not what the world thinks. They think that we're naive and we're gullible. We don't know what we're talking about, but that's not true, right? And then because we're so malleable too, along with knowing what we want, we're malleable. So then parents start programming us differently. So I had the same thing. So I totally get it. We both come from Indian families. You know, when you go and tell your parents you like arts and movies and acting, they say, honey, that is a hobby, not a career. That's what they say, right? My mom was like, I was telling my mom, I was like, Mom, I love painting and I want to do something in art and designing. And she's like, yeah, that's a hobby. Once you have a degree that can pay you well, you can pursue your hobby. So I totally get it.
Yes. And, you know, there are ways that we can incorporate our passions, our hobbies, and figure out a way to create a career that works for us, because essentially that's what I've done. So because of my experiences in the medical field, dealing with professional women, so, surgeons, doctors, lawyers, and I mean, you come across all of these types of people and in medicine. So what I realized is that our journeys for professional women who are trying to juggle, you know, a career, a family, and all of these other things they have to do, those journeys are similar. We're just doing different careers, but the journey is really still the same. So whether I talk to any professional woman, that story is still the same. So it's interesting how that it works out like that. And so then I realized that I can actually incorporate my love for speaking in front of people, my love for speaking on the camera. I can do, you know, I can speak in front of a camera. That's not a problem. And I can actually impact so many people in that way because I understand their story, because I've lived a version of a similar story that they're living right now.
You might actually have lived a few versions of different people's lives from
Possibly.
what I've used. You know,
very likely.
And then you went from corporate healthcare to owning your own med spa. So you
Correct.
lived that corporate healthcare career,
Yes.
which can be relatable to many doctors, other corporate women. Then you step into the entrepreneurship, and then you step into the whole motivational entrepreneurship, a whole different level of entrepreneurship where it's not brick and mortar. So think about how many lives you can impact through all of that, right? And you're a mom. So you understand what it is to raise kids. Like some women who are preparing for just motherhood can actually hire you because you can now guide them better. Like someone like me, I would like to hire you when I'm preparing for my first child, because I'll be like, okay, I don't want to drive myself crazy. I want someone who can help me out, right? Because you've been through many phases that I don't know is what's coming. So there's so much opportunity here for you to pour into the world your wisdom and the love for humanity that you stand for. So let's get into the next phase of your life on how you transition into owning a med spa and where that whole craziness came from.
Well, so what had happened was the ENT practice was actually my own. So the only corporate medicine I experienced was really when I was in my medical school residency. So I experienced the corporate side of it, but I wanted it to have a different feel. So when I started, I actually started my own practice. Although it felt corporate because, you know, there were so many rules and regulations you still have to abide by. So you didn't have that complete freedom, but I already had so I started the med spa very shortly after. Interestingly enough, I had patients who started asking me for cosmetic procedures, which I was trained in doing. I just didn't know if there was a need. And so, the first few people, I did some procedures for them, and then it just grew and grew and grew. And then I dedicated a whole half of the office to the med spa after some time. So that was really fun. And it was so different between one side of the practice to the other. Because on one end, we've got insurance patients who are unhappy and, this and that. And then we've got happy people on the other side who are thrilled to look younger and refresh themselves. And my brand was particularly about aging gracefully, not looking like something that you're not, just embrace who you are, but just make it as, age in a way that's graceful and beautiful for you. So that was a concept that was a little early back when I was doing it. Now it's all the rage, but back when I started doing this in, 2006, probably 2005.
Oh yeah, that was like it was like maybe Beverly Hills trend at that time,
Yes.
but not for everybody.
Right.
Like, how some things are only for rich, and then it starts seeping into other socio-economic classes. So totally get it. And of course, I mean, you walk the walk and talk the talk. You look like you're like 36, 37 right now. So I'm like,
thank you.
When did you start everything? Like, were you 8 years old or something? You started
Oh, well, thank you. That's so sweet. Well, my oldest son is almost 24, and then my youngest is 21. So I have two, adult children, and I really take good care of my skin. That's my big secret. And I really enjoy counseling women on how to age gracefully and what they can do so that they feel good about themselves, but look like themselves. So, once it got to the point where the med spa grew and grew, it felt right to me to take the next step and then that's when I wanted to open up a freestanding medical spa. So then I had a whole nother building and everything and all that ready to go. And we had this whole concept about, really focusing on skin health as the number one priority. And then everything else was really just icing on the cake, because that's really how I've lived my life. And honestly, I'm thrilled with the way my skin looks. I'm 53 and I really can run around without makeup and I don't feel embarrassed or, shy about it or anything, because it's fine. I mean, I look nicer with makeup, but I really am not embarrassed without makeup. And I think every woman should have the option to feel good about herself without wearing makeup. I like the freedom that gives us as women, not having to hide ourselves, hide behind some sort of mask of makeup or whatnot. So that was when we worked on the other med spa, but unfortunately due to COVID, that did not go well. And I had to close it down. And that was when the next transition happened, because I'm the person that sits there and looks at everything that happens in my life and think, what is the universe trying to tell me? Maybe there's something I missed. Maybe there's something I'm supposed to learn from this other than just grief, because I was not happy about that experience at all. So it was at that time where I made the decision that I've been in the North Florida area for over 20 years. I didn't really love it. I didn't really feel connected, but I was just staying there because it was comfortable. So at that point, I decided to move to South Florida, and I live in West Palm now, and made that transition. And then I thought to myself, it took some months to soul search. And I said, what is it that I really, really want to do? What do I want my life to look like? Right. And that's when I said, you know what? I'm 53 years old. When am I going to do this? If I want to speak, it's time to do it now. So that's when I just said, okay, that's it. I'm going to do it.
Yeah, because you're calling to be speaking and being motivational, transformational wasn't being met. Mm-hmm. Yes, you were giving people transformation in form of cosmetics. So it was there. Of course, you were always doing your calling in a way, mm-hmm. but something that gave you more, of course, time and self-care time. Like as you age, of course, it's harder because you have less capacity to deal with energies.
It's right? So true. That's really insightful, because it got to the point where I had this realization that I didn't want to see patients anymore, because I am an empath. And one of the things that was always difficult for me is dealing with so many energies in a day. So when I got to, when I was doing my ENT practice, originally I was maybe seeing 25 people a day. And then with the insurance company demands, I had to increase it to keep my lights on. So then I had to see 40 patients a day, and I could feel the level of exhaustion emotionally that it was creating for me. And even in the med spa, believe it or not, it was difficult sometimes to deal with the emotional things that people would bring into it, because they're coming for a cosmetic appointment, but you'd be surprised that there's baggage behind that a lot of times.
A lot of baggage.
Yes. And, sometimes it's not so bad, but there is quite a bit of it. And so you have to engage with that person on an emotional level. So not that I didn't enjoy it. I mean, I would try to transform their lives and with positivity and everything, even while they were in my chair.
Of course, I don't doubt that.
Yes, but I like to do it in this way much, much more, because honestly, I actually can protect my energy a whole lot better.
Yeah. And when you're an empath, you really have to understand how it's draining you and taking a toll on you, your family, your personal life, your self-care, because there's no way you can come home and decompress from seeing 40 different people's energies and baggage that you're dealing with. And everybody has baggage. Trust me, like there's nobody without baggage.
Mhm.
We're humans. That's a part of our existence. Now, some has more than others.
Right.
Some like to I would say go in circles in the same problem that they love to stay stuck in. Some like to move on. So I totally get it. Some are more fulfilling for you to talk to, but everything takes energy, right?
It does.
So
Well, it's so
absolutely.
interesting, because one of the things that I can do now is, if somebody doesn't want to hear me speak about something, they don't show up. So the only people I get are the people that are engaged in the topic that I'm presenting. So it's perfect. The rest are just not there. So I'm only dealing with a direct energy of people who want to hear the things that I have to say, which makes it a lot easier, because in the med spa, that isn't necessarily the case.
Yeah. And then, because they pay all this money, it's something you're also their counselor, everything. You're
Everything.
like one
Yeah.
person in everything, because they're not going to go spend money anywhere else. You get it. And
Yes.
it's very demanding. So I totally get it. And now I really want to get into, what are you offering? How can people contact you? And what is it that you have an ask from the universe and from the audience? That way it falls right in your lap.
Perfect. Well, as far as how people can, what I offer, obviously I speak all over the world. I'm, doing different talks, and I really enjoy speaking at women's conferences. I do some HR conferences as well. I'm also in the middle of creating my own conference. That's something that I haven't even had a chance to tell you about. I would like to base it here in Palm Beach and create a women's leadership entrepreneurship event, but I want to make it a real lifestyle event, something that's exciting and fun to be a part of. So I'm in the process of that. As we discussed earlier, I published a book that can be found on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. That's called Beauty Unbound. And that book is really about my journey to freeing myself from the chains that were constricting me for so long, because I was just living a life to make other people proud of me. And I decided at the end that I didn't really need anyone else's validation. I just wanted my own, and to live out my highest purpose. And then lastly, I love when you say that, it always makes me laugh. It's like a childhood joke, right? But I counsel also one-on-one. So any woman who's struggling with a career transition, looking into more leadership opportunities, entrepreneurship, if they're considering it, I feel like I've gone through so many of these things, including a business not working. I mean, I had 100% success rate with my other businesses. So now I've seen both sides of that story. So I understand better what to watch out for when you're going to become an entrepreneur, because you should see both sides of it before you just dive in. So those are the big things that I offer to the world. And what I really want from the universe is to see that one woman at a time is impacted by what, people like me, other women are doing the same sort of thing, so that we come together and women can see that they can rise above it. They can take charge of their own lives. They're not going to, I would like to see women not be so overwhelmed by expectations. And then they start to rise, become leaders, become the best versions of themselves, and really prosper, so that this world starts to look a lot different 10 years from now, because women are in their rightful place where they should be.
Absolutely. You've definitely nailed it. So what is your handle, or where can people go look you up if you want to share your website or?
Yes, absolutely. So the website is drkalpanasundar.com, and the doctor is just DR, it's not spelled out. And my Instagram is kalpana.unbound, just that goes with my book. And LinkedIn, you can find me under Dr. Kalpana Sundar.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah. So go check her out and reach out to her, or if you're thinking of a women leadership conference, think of her to come out there and speak how to unplug from the matrices of the whole modern world. And also, I would say one last note, Dr. Sundar, is I feel like women are overwhelmed because we don't have to just now fulfill our feminine, but we have to actually raise our masculine and have the child, raise them, go to work, make the money, put food on the table. Like, how can we do all of that? We're not meant for it.
Right. No, we're not. We're not. It's hard. And I've done it, and I felt a significant amount of burnout from it. I mean, I have no regrets. I've raised two beautiful children, wouldn't have changed it for the world, but it really, I think there's some things that women can do to have more compassion for themselves, make more time for self-care, speak up about what they need. Sometimes I would just get cranky with my ex-husband, and I didn't know how to say what I needed. And if I did know, I felt embarrassed to ask for a night off or something. And these are important things that women have. We have to use our voice in a way that's effective to help us get what we need out of life. And I think we use our voice in all kinds of other ways. Sometimes accept that. Even though I use my voice with all kinds of things, I don't know why, but when it was time to get that out, it wouldn't come out.
In the right manner, and it would become a level 2 kind of a conversation where it's more expressive and radical, confrontational, right? So I get it. Honestly, like, think about this. If you worked, you had a husband, you had a home, and you had kids, when did you have time for self-care? And then the mom guilt kicks in when it comes to time for self-care. That's where women struggle, because there should be no guilt, because you cannot pour out of an empty container. And that's what we end up becoming. That's why a lot of divorces happen. And this whole feminism facade is also not really helping, because corporations want women to work, because we are we're really good at multitasking.
Very.
So sharp, intelligent, like we bring all those skills from home to the table at the conference room, right? And now we have to juggle everything. That's just not possible. So
yeah, it's hard. It really is hard. And I can't tell you how burnt out I felt. And I was definitely an empty container for a very long time. And then I found myself again, and I feel more whole, thank goodness, because of it.
I lost connection. I don't know suddenly what.
Uh-oh.
Okay, cool. All right. So that being said, it's been such a pleasure.
It's been great. I'm looking forward to hopefully meeting you when I'm in California next month. I'm going in May, I believe. So I'll touch base with you. My friend is coming up to Long Beach to see me, so I'm not sure if I can get down to San Diego, but if I can figure it out, I will. So I'll keep you updated.
Awesome. Look forward. I'm sure we'll meet sometime.
Oh, we will eventually.
We met for a reason.
Pleasure. Have a fabulous weekend. Thanks again for having me.
You too. Thank you.